Well, good afternoon, everybody. You already know it's Wednesday. It is time for the College Football Frenzy. My name is Paul Spencer. I'm always with my right hand here. Bill Furman, how are you doing this week, Bill?
I am doing fantastic, Paul. Glad to be back to talk college football, and I'm going to throw something out at you right off the start.
Oh, Bill, please don't tell me it's anything with regarding the team that's not in the top 10 anymore. Please don't say that.
Well, I just want to know, as a Notre Dame fan, are you hopping mad about how that game ended up? If you are, oh my goodness, they let that get away. Are you mad?
Bill, is this an hour show or do we have all night, Bill, that I can talk about this show? Because I tell you what, Bill, going from the first half playing a defensive game where anything could happen, any team could have won this game down to the last play of the game. And Bill, I just want to say I have 10 fingers here, and a lot of coaches can count to 11. I don't know what went on with 10 people in the field, Bill. I have no idea. I don't know. With that amount of time, Bill, 3rd and 19, you play a coverage off defense. You're playing like a prevent defense. I would just blitz the hell out of, my Kyle McCord, let him throw the ball fast, let him get the ball out fast, and take your chances with one of these wide receivers, either breaking one, get a little yak into the end zone. But Bill, I don't know, Bill. I had to like calm myself down, for after that game, Bill. I had a podcast after that, Bill, post game, and I tell you what, it wasn't very fun to do it.
Oh, I bet, because, well, first of all, maybe you didn't see the article I saw where the Notre Dame was trying to explain what happened.
Yes, I did see it, Bill. I actually, I don't know, Bill, if I'm the only one ever to watch a post-conference or post game there and want to throw your remote at the TV, Bill.
Yeah, right. I mean, what I read is he said that, we didn't want to, we were trying to substitute, but we didn't want to take a timeout and we didn't want to take a penalty. We didn't want to take a penalty. That's what it was. And take the penalty.
Bill, the penalty is only half the distance to the goal. That would have been a yard at most.
Right. I mean, it doesn't matter if you're at the 8 and it takes you to the 4 or the 2 to the 1. You got to take the penalty and get 11 guys on the field. Mm-hmm. And then because of the way it all plays out, they get a second play with only 10 guys. I mean, I like I said, to open this, if you're a Notre Dame fan and you're not hopping mad, because you let that one get away, the boys played pretty well.
I think that's your partner checking in. Have a great show, gentlemen. I think it's, as soon as he heard the Notre Dame factor being talked about, of course, Chet has to the ears are ringing. I got to get involved. But, Chet, thank you for checking in, brother. I appreciate that. Bill, what are you and Chet on, for the viewers out there as well?
Well, Chet and I are partners on Philly Press Box Radio. We just finished our show for the week. We do 7 o'clock on Wednesday nights. We're part of the Edge of Philly Sports Network over there. And we have a blast. We're playing pretty good football and baseball over there right now in Philly. So, we're excited about Red October. We're going to the playoffs, and that Eagles showing on Monday night was pretty impressive against Tampa, where the score could have been a lot worse. But nice win by the Eagles headed into Washington, or hosting Washington this week.
Yeah, it must be nice to have two teams. I mean, Penn State's, out of the Philadelphia area, but it must be nice to have a Penn State team rolling, NFL team rolling, where mine, we only have 10 guys on the field, and it looks like one person only showed up for the Cowboys this week, Bill. So it was a bad weekend for me.
Well, and back to Chet, he is a Penn State alum, so
yes.
So he's got a little bit of that going on too. So
gotcha.
Yeah, good times over there in Philly, and check us out, Philly Press Box Radio on Wednesday night, 7 o'clock.
Definitely. I checked out tonight's show. It was a great show as always. Great guest, great, insight, talking all Philadelphia sports with you guys. It's a great time, great hour listening to you guys. But Bill, my team did drop this week. You moved up to number 6 here. You guys are slowly getting into that, top 5, ranking here. My team's slowly going out. But I want to, we already touched on the Notre Dame game here, Bill, but I just want to ask you one thing as a Notre Dame guy. Is the ranking justified? I mean, you lost on a bonehead, stupid, idiotic play. Should they have dropped a little bit further? Because I heard a lot of people say they don't even belong in top 15. I think they are top 10 still.
Oh yeah, I mean, I wouldn't drop them out. I mean, they lost by 1 point, right? I mean,
it was 3 points actually.
Three points.
Yep.
And they played it down to the last second. Should have won the game. I don't see why you drop them like they're a hot potato. I mean, they played pretty well. And
exactly.
I will tell you what, I was a little disappointed in the quarterback play. I thought Hartman was really going to step up and really make this game special.
I did too.
He didn't do that. So
I did.
I was disappointed, but as we talked last week, I thought we were going to play a serious defensive football game, and they did. Both teams did, and Notre Dame didn't disappoint from that standpoint.
No, I mean they played a great game. I mean, if you love defense, I'm an offensive guy. If you like defense, that was the perfect game to watch in the first half. It was just field possession, back and forth, who had the better field position. But you're right, Bill. Kyle McCord outdueled Sam Hartman in yardage wise. I'm looking at it now, 21 for 37 for 240 for McCord. Basically his really first legitimate start against a top 10 team. Hartman, we know he's the OG of college football. At 17 for 25, 175. And there was a couple passes, Bill, that should have been a pick easy for the Ohio State Buckeyes with Hartman. And that's something you don't see with, the field general and Hartman as well.
Yeah, I was the numbers don't sound awful, 17 to 25, but there were no big plays. There was no real stretch in the field.
Yeah.
And maybe that was because of the play up front. They felt like they had to get the ball out quicker. Who knows what they were thinking from an offensive game planning standpoint, but I really thought they would win the game because of him and play good defense. And
I did too. I mean, they took away Harrison. He was really not a big factor. He had almost 80 yards, total for the game. The injury kind of scared me with him as well going out, but he did come back in. They took away, I call him you big brother. They took him away as well. But Bill, they couldn't stop, Henderson. I mean, one run for 61 yards ended up with like 100. He had 104 for the night, but that one run, he just gashed on the outside, and it was just like no defense containment for the Irish, and that's something you don't see with a Freeman coach, Al Golden defense team. It was just lackadaisical plays that put them out of this game, Bill.
Yeah, a couple breakdowns, that's for sure, and they cost them. And you can't have breakdowns against Ohio State.
Exactly.
Or you're going to pay for them.
Yeah, and the one thing, Bill, I'll tell you before we go into other games here is I know we lost Michael Mayer last year. I call him Baby Gronk, going to the Raiders. He looked like a Brock Bowers from Georgia, someone like that. Losing him was a big factor. And I tell you what, Mitchell Evans stepped up. And Bill, in the first half, they were going to him constantly in the middle. The second half, one catch in the second half, Bill. It was just like a flip from first half to second half. I don't understand it when you were gashing the Ohio State defense in the middle.
Yeah, I'm not sure that wasn't more defensive adjustment on the Ohio State part.
True.
Well, that's not the guy that's going to beat us. Let's make him throw the ball to the outside and make some other plays. That it was too easy for him there in the first half with him.
Yeah, and I completely agree now you just said that because the running game did open up in the second half for Austin May. He had a couple bursts. Brian Payne had a couple as well. So you take away the tight end, we're going to run the ball to you. But it was a really good game, Bill, on both sides of the ball. It was just you play 59 minutes and 30 seconds of great football. In the last 30 seconds, I now understand why, Bill, they say it's a 60-minute game.
Absolutely. Got to play them all.
You got to play them all, Bill. Yeah, definitely.
And when you're talking about that, Dabo Swinney can say the same thing down there as he let that Florida State Clemson game get away.
Well, you know what, Bill? Let's jump into that game really quick. Let's jump into that game. I tell you what, Bill, this week, let's talk about this game. Eileen checking in. Hello, Eileen. Thanks for tuning in. Appreciate it.
Hello, Eileen.
Yeah, Bill, go ahead. Let's talk about this Clemson game. I tell you.
Clemson should have won the game. Clemson should have absolutely won the game. And if you look at the statistics in that game, Kid Camden, he's looking for that IO. He ain't getting it from me, Paul.
I'm not going to say anything today. Okay, my mouths are closed right now. Topic is over about Notre Dame. We are not talking about Notre Dame the rest of the show, there, kid. But thank you for tuning in. Hey,
he's not getting that from me. But I think Clemson. I don't know if they were as good a team, but they played well, and they should have won that game. And
yes,
a couple big plays on the defensive side of the ball for Florida State that led to points. And then Dabo let the thing get away from him. He's a good coach, and he got confused or whatever in the world happened to him there towards the end, and he let it get away from him.
Well, Bill, do you think this is losing Brent Venables to Oklahoma a little bit on that defense side of the ball? That maybe it was Venables, running that defense, and with Dabo here, it's a little bit different, aspect now. Losing a great coach to Oklahoma, he's doing his own thing, and he was the defensive genius in
Yeah.
Clemson, basically.
Yeah. Yeah, well, and I think from the Clemson standpoint, I think their talent's a little bit down from where it was back in those and they had some tremendous quarterbacks. They had a great run of quarterbacks there too, that they don't have now. But so I think talent wise they're down a little bit. But in this particular game, they came out to play. They played well. They had a lead. They had scoop and score, pick and score hurt them certainly. Statistically, the game looks like Clemson won it, but they didn't score enough points in the end.
Yeah, Bill, there's one stat that I want to ask you about. The rushing game for Florida State, 20 rushes, 22 yards.
Yeah.
That defense is insane for Clemson, against the run there.
And if you looked at 100 games and you saw stats like that team would win all 100 games.
Bill, I thought it was going to be like a 70-0 game where we seen Miami Dolphins play this week with a stat like that: 20 rushes, 22 yards, and wow!
Right. If you stop the run, you win. I mean that's pretty much a rule as it goes from a coaching standpoint. If we can stop the run and you got to not turn the ball over,
right?
But if you could stop the run, you're going to win. And they stopped the run and they didn't win because they kind of beat themselves.
Yep, they should have won that game. Agreed, 100%. Now, I know, Clemson does have a game this week against a team we'll talk about a little bit. It's one of our games we'll talk about here. Not really a big schedule this week, but did anybody surprise you in this game, Bill, in the Florida State game? Johnny Wilson is dropping balls again. We talked about that last week, Bill. I asked you, what it would be like going to the NFL level and dropping balls. That's going to take his factor far down, size-wise, God-given ability. But dropping balls is something you cannot do. And he's dropping a lot of balls again, Bill.
Yeah, he is. And if you look at if you're just looking at the stats, I think he had 96 yards.
Oh, yeah, 5 catches, 94 yards, 41 yards.
94 yards.
Yep.
You look at that and you think, oh, guy had a pretty nice game. And he did statistically, but you're right. He's got to make plays to be that guy,
exactly.
to be that first round pick or be up there in the Harrison conversation of being one of the elite receivers in college football.
True.
Got to catch the football. It's simple.
Exactly. Yeah, I mean, they should have won that game, 31-24. That should have been a game they should have won as well. But, we won't talk about the Notre Dame game. I don't want to, have a heart attack here live, Bill. I don't want anybody,
we don't want to have to throw that IO up there again.
No, we don't, kid. If you want to, please, that just hurt me so much pressing that button to bring even that up there. But, Bill, how about we talk about another game here? How about we talk about Washington real quick? Washington 59, Cal 32. Michael Penix didn't have to do much of this game, Bill. 19 for 25, 304, 2 TDs. It was just a game where they commanded from beginning to end. And I think they scored 20-some points in the fourth quarter when it was wash-up football, Bill.
Yeah, I think Michael Penix is your guy.
He is. He's my dark. He was not. I don't want to say dark horse, Bill. Coming from Indiana, I watched him a lot. The one game where I want to say this about Penn State. How close he came with that game, Bill. That was Michael Penix as the quarterback there. But this year, Bill, I tell you, the downfall, Bill, I think is playing in the West Coast out there in this Pac-12. I don't think he's going to get the love. But numbers wise, Bill, I did write some stats down. We'll talk about it at the end of the show, Bill, for Heisman candidacy, but. Bill, he's on a legit team. He has a Heisman, a candidacy All-American too. Not Heisman, but All-American in Oduzier, the wide receiver, Rome. 5 catches, 125, 2 TDs. It's just like a combo that we see, like the Jalen Hurts, A.J. Brown, going back to Peyton Manning, Marvin Harrison,
Yeah. I think what it's going to take for him is they're going to have to come up with some sort of marquee win. Whether it's to beat USC or beat UCLA or beat somebody and him have a huge game.
Exactly.
I think that's what it's really going to take for him to get on everybody's radar.
I agree.
And otherwise he can go out there and play well, throw for 300 yards, end up 9-3, and you're never going to hear from him.
Yeah, exactly. You got to beat that key and marquee team. That to me, if I don't want to put Hartman in the Heisman category, but his stats are kind of remarkable what he has. But you're always going to go back to that game. Well, you played Ohio State. You had under 200 yards when you're averaging 300. You're averaging 4 touchdowns. You only threw 1 here. That's what they're going to look as that key matchup, Bill. And I
That's
agree.
right. Yep.
Mhm.
Yep.
I agree.
And that key matchup needs to be on national TV.
Exactly.
You don't need to play Cal where the only place watching it is, way out west.
Exactly.
And nobody really is paying a whole lot of attention unless you're, a sports Nick, college football Nick.
Which we are, Bill.
Yeah, we are.
We're probably the only ones watching at midnight, Bill. That wacky West out there, But hey, that's the way we're wired, Bill. Bill, did you catch the UCLA Utah game?
I followed it. I didn't
Okay.
get to watch it, and to be quite honest with you, we talked about that last week.
Yes.
We thought it was going to be a good game, and it was. And Jesus' name just jumped out of my head. The Lake Gibson kid that we talked about was the running back for Utah, and he got all the work. I believe he had 23 carries or something like that, but only like about 80 yards. I mean, it was rough sledding in that game. But I think anytime that you hold a Chip Kelly college offense to 7 points, you've played some good defense because he can coach college football offense now.
Yeah, I tell you, Bill, the stat you just said, with running the ball there, let's talk about stats. Utah, 48 rushes the entire game, Bill, 102 yards total. Going with UCLA here, 32 rushes, Bill, 9 yards total.
Yeah.
Bill, I haven't seen a game like that. The stats here, you're talking about a 2-0 game here, Bill, is what I'm looking at. You know? Oh, I tell you, it's insane.
You would think that was like one of those playing in the blizzard in Salt Lake City kind of games that,
Exactly.
not a September fresh turf type game. And nice win for Utah for sure.
And you know what the big thing is without Cam Rising still, Bill. Without Cam Rising too. I mean, with him, it's a different animal. This defense is solid, just like you said, shutting down a Chip Kelly offense. That's remarkable in its own feat. And you're holding them to 7 points, and you're barely putting up 14. Just imagine if they have a healthy Cam Rising coming back this year. When he comes back, nobody knows. But hey, when the games are in front of you now, wait till you play USC, the higher class Washington teams in late season. They can move you up. They could be one of the teams under the radar to possibly move up to, maybe a 5 spot. Who knows? They might even be in 4 if they go undefeated with the schedule.
Well, and as we know, Utah beat USC twice last year. I mean,
exactly. That's only 2 losses.
That game circled on somebody's calendar down in LA. You could be sure of that.
Oh, you already know. Lincoln Riley has already scheduled that on the calendar, saying this, twice last year, regular season play and Pac-10 12 championship. It's circled, guys. It's definitely circled.
Absolutely.
Bill, well, let's talk about your team real quick. I don't think it was really a game. Penn State 31-0 here, Bill. I didn't watch the game because I was watching Notre Dame, that game there. But I did go back and watch it, Bill. Some of these stats are amazing, but what did you see in that game? I know you were glued to it.
Well, I'm going to look at it this way. It was never a contest, but the Penn State defense can get after people. There's no doubt about that. The Iowa offense was as bad an Iowa offense as I can remember seeing in a long, long time. Whether some of that credit goes to Penn State or what, I don't know where that goes. I don't know how to balance that out at this point because Iowa was just not good. Drew Allure was excellent. Again, played well, made all the right decisions, did the right things. The offensive line still in question in my mind. We thought they were going to be really strong. They're not running the ball that well against the. I would probably have pretty good defense, but I expect more from them running the ball, and they're certainly going to have to be better up front when they get to these bigger boys come later in the season. So I'm going to go with nice win. A shutout certainly is always nice, but I'm going work in progress here. I'm not thinking we're going to go run away from anybody at this. Well, we might run away from Northwestern, but I don't think we're going to run away from too many guys right yet. Work in progress. I'm going with.
Okay, yeah, I like what you just said there, Bill, because I was looking at I didn't watch the game. I went back and watched a little bit and looked at the stats there. One remarkable thing, Penn State, 57 rushes, 215. I like how you said, the O-line is still, thinking about it. I'm not sure what they are yet. 57 rushes, it's still an average of 4 yards per carry, which is great, in college football. But the one thing I was surprised at, Cade McNamara from, Michigan, played Michigan quarterback there. Bill, 5 for 14 for 42 yards. Is that the Penn State D?
Yeah, they were all over them. They were all over them, and no one open. I like I said, the offense just was not good. whether it was the shutdown from Penn State or just bad situation. I don't know, but they harassed him all night long. And when he did get a chance to get the ball out, there was really nobody out there to throw the ball to.
Okay, because I was looking at the stats, and the one remarkable thing, Bill, is what we talked about earlier. When you look at a stat box and you see yardage versus the other team here, it could be just by looking at it, it's got to be a 70-0 game. Bill, Iowa's total offense 112 yards for the entire game.
Yeah, and they got some of that late. It's what was them? Are you looking at it? What was Penn State's like 4-something?
Let's see. He had LR had 166, and the rushing game I believe had 215. Bill, so we're about 400 roughly.
Yeah, about 400. Yeah, it was never a game, and I think it could have. The score probably should have been a little bit worse, but they got everybody in the game, and they got some people some work, and good showing, and certainly the whiteout did not disappoint either. In the rain, it was bedlam in Happy Valley, that's for sure.
Yeah, I tell you, I watched a little bit, flipping back and forth, and I tell you what, Bill, as we spoke before, I'm only 45 minutes from Happy Valley here. That is one of the things I definitely have to get, as a fan, number one. I'm definitely going to do a trip this year, hopefully, Bill, do they have any more whiteout games this year?
Well, they have what they're calling now the stripe out game.
Okay, that's between the 50-yard line, right?
No, that was the helmet.
Helmet, right? Okay.
That was a new thing. This is like every other section type thing, or however they do it: blue, white, blue, white, blue, white. All
Bill. Hopefully, I do get one of the blue sections because, as you see behind me, I do have a lot of blue in my nature here. So maybe I can get away with something like that.
That's the Michigan game, by the way, and that's a noon kickoff.
Oh wow! Okay. Yeah. That sounds good. Well, Bill, let's talk about one more game here that a lot of people had on their radar. Games are played not in Hollywood; they're played on the field, as some coaches say, Bill. And also, we play for wins; we don't play for clicks. Yeah. What did you think about this beat down from Oregon, 42-6, Bill?
Well, I think when we talked about it last week, I think we thought this was going to happen. Mm-hmm. We both liked Oregon in this game. Mm-hmm. I'm not sure I thought it would be quite as bad as it was.
Right.
And I also think with all the back and forth going on before and after the game, I think Oregon took their foot off the gas. I think they hit the brake. I think it could have been worse. Lincoln Riley doesn't know where a break is.
Exactly.
Right. We'll get to that a little bit later. But I think, I don't know I've been in a lot of locker rooms, said a lot of things to motivate players. I don't know how that gets in the press, what you said to your players behind closed doors. It doesn't matter what anybody thinks of what any head coach has to say to their team to get their players ready. That should stay behind the doors, in my opinion.
Agree.
And it became a thing with the media when I don't know, they're all bantering back and forth with each other, chirping too much for my liking. Mm-hmm. But it shouldn't be a thing. Play the game on the field, and if it, take it from there.
I agree 100%. We both, said Oregon was going to put a win on them, a W in the win column, but I had no idea Bill was going to be like this. And I completely agree with you. I think that the foot was taken off the accelerator late in the game because this could have got way out of hand. And I even put on Twitter, Bill, I think this is the most anticipated handshake after the game. And just like you said, I think it's more the media, a leaking of something, how this got out to the media, what was said, what was going on. That's something you don't do. Even as a coach, you don't. Some coaches do that, Bill, but I'm old school. I won't put it out there. If something is said in the locker room, it better stay in this locker room. Number one.
That's right. That's right. And that's our spot. That's our sacred territory in there. Exactly. Whatever goes on in there goes on in there. That's between us.
Exactly.
And that was out. That was out before the game ever ended.
Exactly. Yeah, I would tell you like, oh, well, what's going on here? Maybe there's going to be like like going to a Florida State game when you see the Chief come out there. The fans react to that. They want to beat up each other, whatever going on. But that's what I was thinking. Like, what is going to happen here? Then I'm thinking like, oh, okay, well, it's two coaches, not a big deal, and everything was squashed at the end. Bill, it was just a regular handshake. A great game, whatever. Who knows what was said between the ears there? With the whispering, but it is what it is. It's the media. Bill, is Colorado going to bounce back? I mean, what do we see with them?
I see them getting killed this weekend too.
Oh goodness, yeah, that's one of the games we need to talk about, Bill.
Yeah, but I will say this: Deion Sanders' press conference after the game said all the right things. Hey, we got taken behind the woodshed, and we got beat, and we got to get better. We got to learn all the things that he should say,
Sure.
and but then as whether they're in context, taken out of context, whatever. Now all of a sudden it's, well, I keep receipts.
Exactly. Yeah.
Stop that.
Exactly.
Stop that. Everybody wants to beat everybody every week. It's not personal. Then and his stuff about what did he say? They're not trying to beat Colorado. They're trying to beat me. No, the program isn't about you. Stop with that stuff.
Exactly. When you talk, Bill, we know as Colorado. Yes, they won one game last year. You already doubled that this year, of course. But when a coach talks about it, they mark you on a schedule. They don't beat you, coach. They want to beat that team to say, you know what, all the talk, we beat you. I think Colorado, every game that they're playing as opponents, they schedule Colorado on the schedule already. I don't care if you're the Sisters of the Poor, they schedule that game, Bill.
Yeah. Well, just as well, if they, next year, Colorado goes 12-0.
Right.
He didn't win the games.
Exactly.
He didn't win. He's saying they're not playing me because I've already been a Hall of Famer. See, that stuff just makes me nuts.
It does. I agree. 100%.
And again, to his credit, everything I've ever seen him say to his players and say to his team, videos you've seen here and there, he's always saying, I like as a coach. He's holding their feet to the fire. He's making them work. He's loving them.
Yep.
And that's what it's all about. And I really admire that. But then I hear some of the stuff he says like this, and you already know I don't like the Coach Prime thing.
Exactly. I agree.
So I'm not even going to call that out. But I just don't get some of this extracurricular stuff.
I agree with you, Bill. The one thing I do agree, he says the right things at times. The one thing, I don't know if you've seen this, Bill. I don't know if you're on Instagram or anything like that. I go on there for videos just to watch crazy things out there. Travis Hunter, who was injured last week with the lacerated lung, he sent a video. It's a viral thing. I hate when players do viral stuff, Bill, for the attention. Number one, that to me, you are playing for the clicks on this Instagram reel here. Number one, but he did say something that Deion. I don't call him Coach Prime either. To Deion saying, I want to come back, coach. I'm ready to come back. Deion, replied to him on it. You're a hell of a player. You're going to be an all-star, an MVP, an elite Hall of Fame player. I don't need you now. I care about you more than I care about this game. That's saying the right things, Bill. He knows what to say. He knows what to say.
Yep. Absolutely. And like you say, now, if he's taking the approach, just like we're talking about with Oregon, if he's taking the approach as this is in our room, this is how I treat my players in our room, and that needs to stay there, I'm good with that too, because it is the right thing, and it's probably not something everybody even needed to know about.
Agree 100%.
But it's what's out there in public that is just not, I don't know.
Yeah.
And then you have a bunch of people, fans of all kinds, that are on his bandwagon, and they're thinking, well, he's not being treated right. No, you're not acting right. And they and their comeback is, well, you want him to act in a box. You want him to act like a certain thing. Well, maybe, because I'm an old guy. I'm an old school guy. But to me, the trash talking and all that other stuff is somebody else is going to keep receipts too. If you're gonna talk about keeping receipts, so is the next guy, and you better be aware of that as well.
Yeah, Bill, I agree with you 100%. I'm old school too. I'm just turning 53 this year. I'm not, foot in the grave yet, but I'm old school too. I go back to like the Jim Tressel days, where the coach wears a nice, vest with a tie inside, who keeps it there. The players, the team, it's fundamentally sound in the locker room. What happens in this locker room stays here. We don't cash receipts. We don't talk about the other team. To me, that's what football is about, Bill.
Absolutely.
But Bill, one more thing about this game. Go ahead. I'm sorry. Go ahead.
No, I was just going to say, the old saying about the sun don't shine on the same dog's butt every day. You know what? You're not always going to be on top, and you're probably not always going to be on bottom. So, that whole receipt thing is, you better be careful how you handing them out.
Yeah, exactly. There's a lot of teams out there that's going to be keeping receipts on you too. Bill. One thing this was remarkable today. I did not know this. I had to look up this. And I thought it was BS. When Cam Newton left Auburn, okay, Bo Nix took over him. He's still in the league, Bill, and Cam Newton is out of the NFL already. That was
Yeah.
amazing when I read that.
Yeah. We were actually me and my son were talking about that the other day,
Oh,
Saturday. It's like, Nix has to be like an 8th-year guy.
That's what I mean.
He started as a freshman, so
yes.
yeah, it just seems like he's been there just absolutely forever.
A friend said that to me. And I was like, no, that can't be right. This is like one of those memes where you see a player like, whatever. I went back and I'm like, wow, this is really true. I couldn't believe that,
Yeah.
But Bill, how about we get into the top 10 real quick? We'll talk about the top 10 here real quick. One, of course, we'll go right down the list here. One is Georgia. Didn't have anything to play for this week. They're running through people. They're doing what they have to do. They arguably, you got to keep them on top of the pedestal, Bill, right?
Yep, I think so.
Mm-hmm. Let's go down to Michigan. Michigan, they are what they are. I don't know what their identity is right now, Bill. I have no idea right now. They're not the Michigan from last year where they can run and ground and pound a game. They can do that, but McCarthy looks a little bit lackadaisical to me right now. He's not throwing the ball downfield this year.
Yeah, they need to be challenged. I think we need to see a little bit more about them. I mean, they can sit there, at 2 until they're challenged. But if you look at, as you go down the line here, 3, 4, and 5, they've all been challenged already.
Exactly. Yep. I mean, we'll go to Texas here. They won the game against Alabama, which jumped them right up to the top 5 right away. Hey, listen, if you play a team that dynasty of Alabama, you beat them, you deserve to be there. But how are we feeling with Texas, Bill? Do you think that 3 ranking from what we've seen right now after the Bama win?
A little high. I think they're a little high there. I
mean,
I don't really know who I would replace them with, but I'm not thinking that they're going to run the table or anything at this point. I think they're another work in progress.
Agree.
They're getting good quarterback play, which certainly helps. But they're living off that Alabama win, and there's going to be a lot more tough games coming down the road for them. We'll see how that plays out.
I agree with you. I think they're a little bit. I want to say, they're top 5 legitimate coming off that Alabama win. Of course, they deserve to be there until you're beaten. You beat the teams that are in front of you right now. But I would flip flop Ohio State with Texas right now. I think going against Notre Dame, they play their defensive team, their offense. They know how to win. They can win a game in close quarters. That's one team I would flip there. But how do you feel about Ohio State?
Well, I think kind of the same thing that we were talking about earlier. You're going to move Ohio State up to 4. You're going to move Notre Dame out of the top 10. Notre Dame should have won that game.
True.
I mean, there's not a whatever. Notre Dame's 11, I believe. There's not a 7-position split between those two teams.
Right.
If Notre Dame would have won that game by those 3.1 point, then Notre Dame's sitting at 4, Ohio State sitting at 11. I mean, it's that. I'm not sure. Well, I guess because of the way it all lays out, it kind of has to be where it is because they did win a big game on the road.
True.
But that might be a little high for right now as well.
I agree with that one too. I completely agree with what you said. If Notre Dame would have won that game by 1, whatever, they would have been sitting top 5 right now, Bill. And I'm just curious to see how far Ohio State would drop. Being only a 2-point favorite, they'll be in the top 10. But Bill, let's talk about this. Seminole team. I don't know, Bill. This to me, 5. What do you think?
I think it's high. They should have lost too. So, but again, you look at the teams behind them. Should they really be up? They went on the road just like Ohio State did, came out with a win. So as you're splitting hairs with all these good teams in the top 10, I guess they're okay, and it's probably going to play itself out too. True. Although Florida State's probably got a pretty much more easy road.
Yeah.
Except they will play Miami, who is playing a little bit better. And they still have to play the Gators at the end of the year. So,
yeah, based on schedule-wise, I think Florida State has the easier route. It's not a cupcake schedule, of course, by any means. There are some tough teams out there, especially. Is Miami at home, Bill, or?
I think it is at Miami this year,
okay,
I believe.
Okay.
Yeah, I think so.
They have the easiest schedule versus – but let's get into number 6 here. I mean, Penn State to me is right where they're at, Bill, because you said there's a little bit of identity, back and forth of who you're playing, of course, beating the teams that you're supposed to. But Bill, it's all going to play out because you got Michigan and Ohio State at 2 and 4. 2, 4, and 6 here. Something's got to give here, Bill. Something's got to
Yeah,
give.
yeah. Again, the Penn State's probably in the right spot, but unproven. A lot of work to do. You just have to keep winning your games and stay in the mix there. But certainly doesn't have the signature win that Texas, Ohio State, or Florida State has to move ahead of them at this point.
Right.
I would say.
Agree. I say there's right in the 6 there. Like I said, it's going to play out later in the BCS rankings. It'll play itself out because 2, 4, and 6 still have a trio of games here between you guys. Wacky Pac-12 here, Bill. Washington Huskies. Sitting undefeated. Heisman candidate here, Michael Penix. But then again, who are you playing, Bill?
Yeah, I mean, I'm actually surprised that Washington is that high.
Me too.
At this point, don't know that they don't deserve to be this high, but a little surprised they're up there. We'll have to see how that schedule. USC and UCLA are good. Washington State, are they going to be any good? I just don't know what the competition's going to end up looking like there.
Agree. I mean, just beat the teams that you can. Let the BCS fall the way they fall right now. It's better just to beat who's in front of you. Let the AP experts talk about it. And Bill, as we always talk about, I always say it was style points at the very end. Like Lincoln Riley will put 100 on if he can. He's not going to pull it off you. And I think style points mean a lot. A lot of teams late in the season. So let's talk about USC, a team that does not care about style points. They will put it on you at any time, Bill.
Yeah, and Colorado's up next for them, and that's probably not really good for what's going on in Colorado. But USC still has to come to Notre Dame, I believe.
Yes, they do.
They have to play Utah. They have to play UCLA. So they've got a rough road to go too. We'll see how that plays out. Quarterback play is looking pretty good out there too.
But the one thing is, Bill, they do not play defense.
No.
They do not play defense.
No, and because they've relied so much on their offense and they've been so good on offense, they haven't had to. But what happens if they end up in a tussle, a 14-7 game like UCLA ended up in?
Yeah, exactly. And I mean, that's something. If USC could put a defense together, I think they would be a top 5 legitimate team with Caleb Williams at quarterback now. But they do not play defense. And Kid Camp's in Miami at FSU this year. Florida State goes to Florida. Either way, you go down to the Swamp. That's going to be a tough game. I don't care where Florida's ranked at. And Miami, Bill, they were giving out tickets last week. Buy one get 15 free. Maybe it'll be a different venture the way they're playing right now.
Yeah, we'll see. They went to Philly and they beat Temple, which they should have.
Very easily.
But they're playing good ball, and they've got a good quarterback in Alex Van Pelt as well.
Yeah.
But they need to be, they need some competition too. Let's see how they do when the money gets on the line. They're really good about starting strong.
Yes.
Winning 3-4, going 3-4, 5-0, and getting the hype and getting into the rankings, and then all of a sudden they lay an egg and they fall apart. And we'll see under Mario Cristobal in his second season if that ends up being the case this year.
Agree. Well, let's talk about Oregon here. I mean, a shellacking last week, 42-6 over Colorado, who could have put up at least 60 to what I've seen, Bill. But Oregon. Where do you think they are? I mean, Bo Nix led, 20th year in the college football rankings here. How do you feel about Oregon? Overranked, or where do you think they are?
Well, I think based on the eye test we saw last week, they belong there. Quite honestly, I've never been a Bo Nix fan.
Me either.
Even when he was at Auburn. So I'm not. I mean, he's been around a long time, and he certainly should have matured as a player and as a person, obviously. But whether I would hang my hat on him to win big games for me down the stretch against really good teams, I just don't know that I feel that with them.
I agree 100%. I'm not a fan of Bo Nix. I think he has to win a couple big games because at Auburn, that was his bugaboo. Never really won the big games there. Great numbers, great leading quarterback, but couldn't win the big games against the rival teams and the ranking teams. So let's talk about number 10 here, Utah. A little scared versus UCLA this were 14-7. Without their star, could it be Heisman quarterback candidacy, Cam Rising? This defense, Bill, is solidifying this team. They are winning games with a solid defense.
Yeah, they are, and I think because of that, if they can hang on until Rising gets back, all of a sudden they're really in the mix. And that UCLA game, man, you talk about getting down in the trench and punching each other in the mouth. That was a good game. I mean, for those guys that like all that scoring, it wasn't much to watch, but just good hard play, good big boy smacking the mouth football. That was a good game.
Oh, exactly. I mean, it was one in the trenches on both sides of the ball, basically. But I tell you, that was a game to watch. If you love defense, that was it. I mean, I love offense, Bill. I like to score, 40 points a game. But watching that game is just like, wow. It puts something in your eyes where you run a hybrid offense. Wow, they can stop you that good. Being a Chip Kelly, which a perfect example with his offense, they shut it down. And I tell you, Bill, it was something to look forward to,
Yeah. Hey, you talk about liking offense, and I like offense too. And, as an O-line coach, I certainly loved it. But, I'll take that Ohio State Notre Dame game.
Oh,
a trench warfare game, as I like to say. I'll watch them games all day before a 50-45 game.
Yeah, I mean, don't get me wrong, I do love the defensive game because it shows me that this is a battle. Because I tell my kids up here, Bill, I tell my quarterback, he gets the star credit, he gets, the slaps on the back, the pats on the helmet. I tell him, like, you look down in front of you, you see those five guys? That's who you owe it all to, because you ain't nothing without those five guys. And the backs of the backfield, who blocks for you? Those five guys right there. So the game is won in the trenches, and I respect that 100% watching some of these games this week. Definitely do.
You bet.
Well, Bill, let's get into this week here. Not a lot of big games here. Let's start with the USC game here. We won't go in order here, but let's go USC Colorado. Is there going to be receipts in this game, or is this going to be a 50-point dropping, Bill? What do you think?
I think it's going to be a 50-point dropping. I'd like to think if this was like an NFL game, I would say that Colorado would bounce back, and because that's what they do when you're pros. I just don't think they have the talent here. And I think just USC is going to run them out of the building. I don't think a coach or anybody else could get a team hyped up enough to pull off this upset. They just don't have enough talent at this time.
Yeah, I mean, I agree with you 100%, Bill. Going back to the Colorado State game, the BS happened between the coaches, what have you there. It's circled on this schedule, and if a Colorado State team can, almost pull off the victory in double overtime as well versus Colorado, then the next week Colorado just gets a shellacking, gets 42 points. I can only imagine what USC is doing this week, prepare for this. I can guarantee it's written on the chalkboard in the locker room. We do not stop until 60 minutes. The foot is on the pedal all game long.
Yeah, and the thing in that Oregon game for Colorado is they couldn't stop anything.
Exactly.
They couldn't stop the run. They couldn't stop the pass. The statistics were, and then they couldn't move the ball either.
Right.
They got some garbage yards at the end, and Sanders threw a touchdown at the end to get on the board. But heck, they had like 60 yards of offense in the fourth quarter.
Yeah.
And they were negative 42 rushing at some point.
Shedeur lost 41 yards on a back scramble that, he should have thrown the ball away. That's, in your common sense in your head to throw the ball away, number one, just get it behind it, get in front of the hash marks or the yardstick there, now the hash box, but minus yards in rushing. And Bill, the stats were Bo Nix 276, rushing 248, Bill, for the entire game. Yeah. And that's not even really looking at the game, how they ran it. They could have been a lot more.
Absolutely.
So yeah, I think it's going to be a butt kicking here. I think the line is minus 22, Bill. I'm going to go USC minus 22, Bill.
Yeah, I think so.
Definitely. Well, let's get into the other game here. Now, this Oregon State Beavers, I do like their offense. They're hybrid. They run the ball with a more scat back situation. Utah's defense, this is like a Chip Kelly offense with Oregon State, Bill. Can they do it twice in a row?
Yeah, a little tougher this time on the road. I think, but I'm gonna ride with Utah. I think they're gonna hang in there.
I agree. I'm going to go Utah as well. I think Cam Rising is still questionable. Of course, I don't know if he's playing. It's still questionable on the shelf, but I don't think they can need him with this defense, Bill. They keep it close. It's Utah all day. I think it's probably going to be like a Utah. They can't score, so I'm going to say 17-9 maybe. I think they hold them that bad.
What's the line on that?
I didn't even look on that one, Bill. I didn't even look at it. Actually, I usually look at them on Thursday night. Playing around. Oh, I lost Bill for a second, guys. We'll get Bill back in here in a second. Let's see. Kid Cam, the rise was a full participant in practice. Utah went -4 to -6 on the betting line. Okay, I didn't even know that. I usually look at the lines usually on Thursday nights. I bet a lot, but I really don't look at the lines until Thursday. I'll look at them Monday for a second, but then I'll look at them Thursday just to see where Vegas is pinpointing, the movement there. All right, Bill's back.
Yeah,
all right, there we go.
I just got to think that there was a problem, and I went blank.
Oh, holy crap. Oh, my God. Well, Kid joins in. He says Utah went from 4.5 to -6 on the betting line, Bill. And that's a defensive game. That's a defensive game. Yeah, that tells me it's a defensive game here, of course. Bill, let's talk about this number 11 ranked team here. I mean, not an easy task, Duke here. Duke is playing some ball through a 4-0 as well. Is this a rebound game, Bill?
Well, it better not be a trap game. They better come prepared or they'll get knocked off at Duke. I think, Duke, hard to believe that Duke's playing really good, but they are playing really good. And, Notre Dame should win this game, certainly, but don't fall asleep at the trigger here or you might be in a little bit of trouble.
Yeah, and I tell you what, as a Duke coach, I'm not very familiar with Duke. The only thing I have is with the Blue Devil basketball team and Bobby Hurley Leitner days. But, I tell you, 4-0, Bill, surprising, Duke is 4-0 here, but if I'm the coach, I'm going to go back and watch some game film of how they shut down this offensive running game that was a dragon with Estime, and the one thing, Bill, is go back to North Carolina State. Sam Hartman is 1-2 against them because he played a 3-3-5 defense, and that gives him fits. Maybe this is something where a smart coach would go back and say, Hartman struggles with the 3-3-5. Okay, let's throw a little bit of hybrid in there, and let's run Ohio State's defense, not with the true horses they have, but similar situation here, Bill.
Well, there's plenty of tape on Hartman in the ACC, so
yes,
Duke's seen enough of them. They can prepare for them. But like I say, I think Notre Dame should win that game, but don't fall asleep.
I agree. I just don't want to look, don't look forward. Play who's in front of you here because if you get caught sleeping, anything can happen as we've seen in this, this league this year, Bill. LSU, Ole Miss, Bill. What do you think?
I like Ole Miss at home in this game.
I do too. I agree with you. I agree.
Yeah, I don't know. Maybe it's my bias of not really liking Brian Kelly, thinking they're going to lose. But I think Ole Miss has a pretty good team, and they're at home. And they're all big games in the SEC, and I'm going to go Ole Miss in this.
I agree with you. Number one, I don't like, Brian Kelly, number one, for obvious reasons. But, but other than that, I do think LSU doesn't have an identity right now, Bill. I'm not happy with their quarterback. I'm really not. Their play. Their defense is suspect to me. One great game versus we'll give up 50 points next game, it seems like to me. And Ole Miss is one of those teams with Lane Kiffin that can put points on you, Bill. If he finds something that works, he's not afraid to run that well dry. He will keep constantly going there. And he shows you a lot of different looks. So I think they confuse LSU here, especially being at home, Bill. I'm going to go Ole Miss on this one.
I'm going to go with you.
Mm-hmm. Now, the next game, Bill, I want to know where you're going because I'm probably going to go opposite than you, but I'll let you go first here. Florida versus Kentucky here.
Well, Kentucky has built a pretty good program there with Mark Stoops, and but not so much this year. They've got some quarterback issues. They lost their quarterback in the draft. Billy Napier's maybe going to get this thing going. I'm going to go Gators on the road, but Kentucky, they always play tough.
Yeah, I'm going to go Kentucky here. I think this is not a rebound game. This is not even a get-right game, Bill. I think this is a circle schedule game where, they're 22, they're beatable. We don't know what they are, going good and bad. I think this is, Stoops' game where he circled this one and he's got this team ready at home. We've seen glimpses, Bill. We've seen glimpses of this. And this is what I wanted to bring up, too. They're favored by 1, Kentucky, at home.
Mm-hmm.
So I'm not willing to say I am going to take Kentucky here. I think this is the game where they can beat, an SEC team here to move up the ranks and get it right, Bill, because they have a huge schedule coming up in the SEC as well. Yep. So I'm going to go Kentucky here. I'm going to take Kentucky here.
Mm-hmm. All right.
Let's go to the next one. Kansas versus Texas here. 24-3, Bill.
Well, if I had a siren, I would play the upset alert siren.
Wait a minute. Here. Bill, you know what? I wish we had a soundboard here because that is something I would love to hear, Bill. Wow.
I tell you what, who would think this? But this Kansas team, this Kansas coaching staff has come a long way.
Yes.
And this isn't going to be a pushover game for Texas. Texas may still win, especially at home,
Hmm.
but I think Kansas is going to give them a dogfight.
Hmm.
And I am going to call. I'm going to play the siren. We don't have a
Okay.
siren. We'll work
You
on
know,
that for next week. We'll work on that for next week. But I'm
definitely.
going upset alert right here. Kansas over Texas.
Wow, the upset alert. Bill, I'm not bold enough to do that one there, Bill. I don't see that one. But the one thing I do want to say is it's funny to watch all these teams here that we talk about basketball. You look at Kentucky, Duke, Kansas basketball schools,
Yeah.
and you're taking one of these basketball schools, Kansas, over Texas, Bill.
Yeah. We'll have to see because Texas hasn't been Texas, until recently over the last handful of years either. And
True.
Steve Sarkisian's getting this thing straightened out. But like we said earlier, I'm not sure they're all that yet.
You know what? I tell you what, if this is Kansas's game, I tell you what, Bill, this could be a solidifying moment where 24 could lead, top 15 easy with this win here, of course.
Absolutely.
So you heard it here first. Bill Furman is taking Kansas over Texas this week as his upset alert. And Bill, here's the line real quick. Kids are 16.5, Bill.
Well, Vegas is wrong.
Vegas is, you heard it here first. Vegas, you're wrong. Bill Furman has spoken. It's upset alert. Take Kansas. I'm telling you right now.
There you go.
But Bill, this is one game where I think it's an upset here. I know a lot of people are going to call it an upset. Clemson, Syracuse. Bill, something about Syracuse and that quarterback that can run the ball no matter what he's doing. Any play, he can get you the yards. When they play at the Carrier Dome, Bill, it is a different Syracuse team.
Yeah, it is. And man, if they could just put some consistency together,
right?
But you never know what you're going to get.
True.
Almost quarter to quarter, let alone game to game.
Mm-hmm.
And it will be interesting to see how Clemson rebounds from their game.
Mm-hmm.
You go up there on the road a week after that Florida State game and you come out flat, you're going to get beat.
Yeah, I mean, I look at the last year's games, Bill. Syracuse, I believe they came very close to winning last year, very close in the last 2 years. So I think, I don't know what it is, Bill, something about that Carrier Dome. To me, when I watch a game at the Carrier Dome on TV, it feels like nobody's in the crowd. It's just so big, looking at that stadium. Yeah. Like, oh my God, yeah, they're giving tickets away or something. But there's something about when they play at the Dome there. I have Syracuse winning this game. Bill, would it be an upset if I called like that? I don't think it's an upset, though.
No, I don't think it's an upset.
Okay. Okay.
Yeah, no. Now, if Clemson would have beat Florida State and been ranked, that might.
Oh,
be
sure,
upset,
sure.
No, but I think Syracuse can win that game as well.
Gotcha. Okay, so you're going to take Clemson, though, right?
Yeah, I'll take Clemson.
All right, there we go.
Just for fun.
Well, Bill, since you called it an upset, Kansas beating Texas here, I'm going to go out on a limb on this next game here, Bill. And, no, Bill, I'm very sorry. I am not going to do that. There is no way in hell that I would ever call Northwestern beating Penn State, Bill. What is this? Is a get it right game, Bill? Work on the offensive line. Work on what you need to. Fundamental game here.
Yeah. That whole Pat Fitzgerald thing and coaching change and all that stuff going on at Northwestern, they're not very good.
No.
At this point,
no.
It doesn't matter that it's at Northwestern. Penn State's going to go out there and take care of their business.
I agree.
Easily, I think.
What kind of shellacking are we talking here, Bill?
38 to 10. Maybe
38 to 10. So they're going to get 10 charity points pretty much in the fourth.
Maybe.
Yeah,
maybe.
Okay. Well, Bill, I don't know if you heard this, but did you hear about Mel Tucker today? They got rid of him today 100%. But Bill, did you see what he said today in a outright article?
I did not.
He's saying that he had a relationship with the person, the person that he did his little thing on camera. That they had a relationship and it was mutual. That they were doing this together. Both of them knew about it. That they just wanted him out because they called him a ridiculing of the university.
Wow. Well, it sounds like there's a lawsuit getting ready to happen.
Yeah, because he was saying, I really want to see the bylaws of what they have, jurisdiction-wise on me, because he flat out said, Bill, that he had a relationship with the person that was involved on the other side of the screen.
But did the story change that she turned him in?
I didn't read that. All I seen was that little article because I was at practice, and I'm like, it was breaking news sent to my phone. I'm like, this is bogus. This didn't really happen. And I looked at it, I'm like, wow, his name is on it, where he said he had a mutual relationship, that it was just a regular conversation between the two at different locations. Is what he said.
Wow.
That
Well,
is incredible.
that certainly be more to come with that because
Mhm.
that sheds a whole different light on things.
Yeah, and the
Certainly.
Bills 79. I know you talked about this 90 million, but on the table right now is $79 million
Yeah.
uncashed on his. You know,
Yeah.
Bill. That's the stupidity, Bill. Stupidity.
Well, yeah. I mean, it's stupidity, but it's certainly if there is a second side to the story, it's sure worth
Sure.
fighting for because that's a lot of jack.
Yeah, I mean, hey, listen, if you can get a couple million back off that lawsuit, because that could be something very serious. I mean, you're not only going against university, you're going against NCAA rights here. Everything for you. But stupidity does go a long way. You did what you did, and that shouldn't even been done to anybody. No matter
That's
what. But
right. That's right.
Stacy
Hey,
checking in. Go ahead, Stacy.
hey,
Go ahead.
Stacy. Thanks for stopping by. Hey, I wanted to throw out to you because I don't want to miss this. The Fresno State Bulldogs are ranked, Paul.
I see, Bill. Why do we talk about the Florida State Bulldogs here?
Yeah. Well, actually, I've tried to reach out to my buddy Brian Armstrong, who is the
Mhm.
O-line coach now, and haven't been able to get with him. A little busy this time of the year, but they're
Mhm.
undefeated, snuck
Yeah,
into the top 25. And if you look at their schedule, they got a chance to win a whole lot of games.
yeah,
Um,
I
yeah,
agree. I mean, yeah, we talked about that last week, Bill. I'm not, I really don't follow, Fresno State, of course.
me neither.
I didn't
Me
watch them a
neither.
lot. I'll be honest with you, I really didn't watch them, but actually, I did watch a little bit glimpsing, of this weekend. And I tell you what, Bill, if they can win out here, they could be that Boise State, Bill. Back in
Yeah.
the day where they rank up. You give them a chance being a Cinderella team, maybe against one of these big teams. Let them show you what they have, Bill.
Yeah, I mean, I don't know what it gets you, how
Yeah.
far it gets you up there if you can run the table, or
Mhm.
certainly you can't lose. If you lose, you'll be out.
Sure,
But
sure. Mhm.
I don't know what that gets you, but hey, keep winning.
Exactly. Kudos to you. Keep winning. Beat who's in front of you, and hey, let the BCS scratch their head a little bit. Like, wow, they're 13-0 here. Who would have thought that? But keep winning is all we can say. You deserve a shot. In a couple more years, that outright Power Five team will be a participant in the BCS pretty soon. So
That's
we'll
right.
see about that.
Hey, I want to throw one more game at you. The
Okay.
worst game of the weekend.
Oh Lord.
Pitt 1-3 at Virginia Tech 1-3.
Bill,
Two,
talk about
two,
teams that are used to be solidified teams, and where are they now, Bill?
Yeah, I mean the fact that they're both 1-3 and kind of going in the wrong directions. This would be one of those games you'd circle on your calendar too as a football man and say, man, I got to watch this, especially at Virginia Tech where the crazies are going at it.
Mm.
And now it's a game that no one cares about. Just
Yeah.
crazy for
You
two
think you
good
think about
programs.
Yeah, you think about must see TV. Two rivals that are, used to be good. Of course, going back to Beamer days, and of course, Pitt up here. And I live near Pittsburgh, Bill. And it's funny that you mentioned that. We were talking backstage a little bit, and a couple of my coaching staffs are Panther fans, and are like, they were telling me like, oh, we don't even give a damn about this season.
Yeah,
We don't
yeah.
even care anymore. And I was like, well, what about the backyard, brawl? He's like, oh, we don't even care about that. We're that bad this year. Who cares? I'm like, wow, okay.
Yeah, and supposedly they have a pretty good recruiting class lined up for this,
Mhm,
next season. But
mhm.
if you don't win a lot of games, they're going to have trouble being bowl eligible.
Agree, agree.
And if you don't do that, and you've got a really good guy, and that team over there in Central Pennsylvania is after your kid, and
Hmm.
they got 110,000 and they're 10-0. It's going to
Agree.
be tough keeping your guys because there's another team out west out there in Columbus
Hmm.
that would take some guys too. So you better be careful if you got some really good guys and you're putting together a lousy product.
And the one thing that makes it worse, Bill, is this transfer portal. Nothing is verbal, nothing is committed anymore in NCAA, Bill. Nothing is committed,
That's
100%.
right.
You know.
Absolutely.
But Bill, before we get ahead, I do want to throw one thing at you. I'm just going to read you 6 stats real quick, and I would like you to tell me which one you would pick overall for a Heisman. Okay, they are all
Okay.
quarterbacks. They're quarterbacks. I'm not going to give you the name. I'm just going to go right down the list. First one, 1,187 yards, 5 TDs, 4 picks. 915 yards, 8 touchdowns, 3 picks. 1,200 yards, 15 TDs, 0 picks. 903 yards, 8 TDs, 0 picks. 1,636 yards, 16 TDs, 2 picks. 1,236 yards, 14 TDs, no picks, 1 loss. What What stat throws out to you, Bill? I know the memories. You don't have to
Well,
come out of that.
let's eliminate everybody except for the 3 guys that have thrown no interceptions. Let's get
Okay.
what are those again?
All right, let me write those down here real quick. No picks.
Because you did say one guy was 16-1 though, didn't you? I think.
Let's see what we have. Yeah, he had 16 TDs with 2 picks. We eliminated him. The other ones that haven't had a pick yet this year, Bill, is 1,200 yards, 15 TDs, 0 picks. Top 10 team. Top 10 team coming up as well. 903 yards, 8 TDs, 0 picks. Top 10. The next quarterback is not in the top 10. 1,236 yards, 14 TDs, no picks, 1 loss to a top 10 team.
I would go back to what was it? The very first one. 14. Is it 14-0?
1,200 yards, 15 touchdowns,
and no interceptions.
That's where you're gonna go.
I'll go with that guy.
Well, then you just select Caleb Williams again to go back to back. Yeah,
there you go.
I was looking at that, Bill. Now, quarterback. We always talk about the quarterback award. Running back's not going to get it. We don't see that happening, of course, unless you have a 2,000-yard rushing season, 20 TDs, whatever, and you have to be a top 5 team as well. But the first one was actually Drake May, Bill, with 4 picks already. The second one, we talked about J.J. McCarthy in the beginning of the season, what we thought of he might be, Bill. 9-15, 8 TDs with 3 picks already in a situation where I don't even understand why he's thrown 3 picks right now with that offensive line and that running back between, a Blake Corum and the other was. And Caleb Williams is, of course, him. Drew Aller was a 903, 8 TDs, no picks. Michael Penix was a 1636, 16 TDs, 2 picks. And Hartman was the last one.
Mm-hmm.
Wow. Okay. Yeah, I think Caleb Williams is going to run away with this, but it all comes down to that Oregon game and also the Utah game, Bill. That could take it away.
Well, and you're kind of splitting hairs as you go there, just looking at stats. I mean, 16-0, and what was the other one? 14-1. I mean that.
Yeah.
Yeah. So that was fun though. It was fun to try to think through that.
Yeah, because I was telling my buddy coaching today, he was like, I was just throwing out numbers today. And he was like, I would take the 16 touchdowns, the 1,600 yards, 16 touchdowns, 2 picks. And I was like, I just wanted to bring you the stats just to see what you would say number-wise, because we always look at, Bill, you and I always look at, okay, well, yeah, you do 16 touchdowns, 1,600 yards in 4 games here. You're averaging 400. You do have 2 picks, but who the hell did you play? We look at it that way. Yeah, we look at it that way.
Right.
Yep. Well, Bill, so, let's get out of here. What we'll do is we'll come back next week and recap everything. You have the upset, Bill, so I hope all is well with you at the upset there. If we have a siren, we'll work on that next week because Kansas is going to upset Texas here. And, man, I don't know, Bill. If that happens, I tell you what, I got to praise you 100% the entire show. Tell you that. Oh,
you got to reach out, man. You just never know.
You do. That's why it's out of the box. You got to reach outside the box sometimes because you never know, anything can happen. Everything is a 60-minute game, and you never know what the hell's going to happen because I do know that for sure against last week, Bill. 100%. That's right. Last comment of the night, we have Kid saying, great show, guys. Kid, thank you for tuning in. I appreciate that every week. Thank you for tuning in, brother. Definitely. All right, Bill, any closing words?
No.
Let's get out of here, Bill.
Let's do it.
All right, guys, thank you for tuning in. We will see you next week, of course, on College Football Frenzy at 8 o'clock with myself and Bill Furman. Until then, have a great weekend. Hope your team wins, and we'll see you next weekend.